for Trader Carology. I want to thank you, the audience, and also our speakers today for taking the time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule as we're accelerating towards the end of a year I don't think any of us will ever forget. It's been crazy. Today, I want to take the opportunity to share some free insight. We have a really nice combination of primary research conducted by Trader into consumers. We're going to learn a lot about first-time buyers, the outlook for the market, and so forth. And then in the second half, we're going to be speaking to a couple of external speakers about industry trends and also dealership operations. And so a bit closer to home for our dealer partners about how you can take your business to new heights of success in 2021. And, you know, we're happy to organize events like this and offer this kind of insight because, as we've said many times here at Trader, you know, we do believe that the success of our dealer partners and our success is inextricably linked. So we truly believe that we want to do everything that we can to help you be as successful as possible. So I'm your host, Ian MacDonald. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Trader Corporation. And just a couple of notes from me before we get into the good stuff, and I hand you over to our speakers. So at the end of today's session, we're going to be together for around 2 hours. We're going to jam in an awful lot of content. So if there are questions along the way, then please do use the instructions here to ask those questions, either during the event or at the end in the dedicated Q&A period. We're going to have around 15-20 minutes right at the end to answer some of your questions from any of today's speakers. So please submit those questions at any point by clicking the hand icon, which you're going to find located in the top right-hand corner of your webcast window. And you may need to exit the full screen mode in order to see that icon, just to be aware. Now we have a couple of polls, a couple of breakouts happening today between speakers, so please pay attention. We'll be asking you questions based on the content that you've heard, pretty gentle questions, but you'll have the opportunity to win an Amazon.ca gift card with one click by simply answering those polls and letting us know what you believe the answer is to those questions. So they'll be coming up in between the various speakers. So talking about our speakers, like I said, a nice kind of combination lineup we have here. So just to touch on each of these folks very briefly. First of all, today we're going to hear from Baris Akurek. Baris is Director of Marketing Intelligence here at Trader Corporation. Baris oversees things like consumer analytics, research, insights. He's one of the people that's closest to consumers, how they feel, what they do, how they behave, and how they use our marketplace within our business. So Baris is going to be treating us to a marketplace health update, let us know how the autotrader marketplace has been performing, but then also what the outlook for our industry is economically, the automotive industry in the coming couple of years. Obviously, some incredible change happening this year. What does it all mean for the future? And for all of us as people who operate in the automotive vertical, what does it mean for us? Then we're going to hear from Lillian Lau, Vice President of Consumer Marketing at Trader Corporation. And again, one of those people that's super close to consumers and how they think and what they do. And Lillian is going to be taking us through some primary research that we've conducted around first-time buyers. So if you've been visiting go.trader or reading our emails or reading any of the trade press, you would have seen some of the research that we've done that one of the silver linings of COVID, if there is one, is that it's encouraged and increased non-car owners' appetite for owning a car. So we're seeing a lot more first-time buyers come onto our marketplace, and I'm sure you're seeing those come through your doors as well. And Lillian's going to take us through 3 hacks that we can use to attract those first-time car buyers, but then also how to take them through the process because they're not as familiar as other car buyers, and then closing those sales opportunities. Then in the second half of this afternoon, I'm going to be speaking with Chris Schulthes, who's a national trainer at Y Management. This is unmissable content. So this is going to be 3 key steps to finish off this year strong and start 2021 off on the right foot. Really unmissable stuff there for anyone involved with running a dealership or owning a dealership. And then lastly, our keynote, all the way from London, UK, we're going to have Nick King. Nick is the Director of Insights at autoTRADER UK. And you know, many of us are aware that in the UK, there may be a year or 2 ahead of us in terms of digital adoption of various things, but so it proves with car buying as well. And, you know, I think that when speaking to Nick and hearing from Nick, it's like having a crystal ball into where the Canadian market might be headed over the next kind of 1, 2, 3 years. So Nick's going to be talking to us about how we can adapt and win in this new environment. So we're going to be thinking about things like digital retailing and how technology is changing alongside the pandemic to accelerate some of these shifts. So looking into the future, again, unmissable content with Nick. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over firstly, as I mentioned, to Baris Akurek, our Director of Marketing Intelligence. Baris is going to take us through that marketplace health update and then looking a little bit forward into what we foresee happening within the industry in the next couple of years. So Baris, thank you for joining us, and I'll hand it to you.
Thank you, Ian. I'm super excited to be here. And as Ian mentioned, we have a couple of things that I'm going to be talking to you about. We're going to be starting off with our own marketplace performance. Probably it wouldn't surprise you to say that it's been a very interesting year, and you'll see that some interesting trends in our data. And then we're going to dig a little deeper to understand what's happening in the market in a little bit more detail. We'll look at some data, we'll look at some research findings, and then finally, I'm going to close off with how the market's going to look like in the next few years from the new car sales perspective. So, what is happening with our marketplace? All right, so we started off the year pretty decently. Our January and February growth numbers were pretty good at around 10-11% in visits and 7% growth in VDPs. And then come March, mid-March, obviously things got pretty serious with COVID and cases and restrictions and lockdowns and whatnot, and our traffic started to decline. By April, so I've been with AutoTrader since 2014, and we had never had negative growth ever during my tenure here. So it was the first time where we experienced a decline in traffic in April, and then come May, things started to normalize a little bit, and people started getting used to what's going on, and traffic started to increase by quite a bit. So since May to November, our growth has been pretty exceptional. We grew our visits by almost 30%, and VDPs went up by 22%. So probably you're asking that question, you have that question in mind, why, what's happening? Why there's this great growth? So high level, two reasons. One, marketing spend. We never stop spending in marketing. We want to be there when the consumers are ready to buy their next vehicle, right? We know that the times were hard, especially in March and April, but if you need a car, you need a car. And when you need it, we need it to be there. The other thing is, we know that our competitors, they didn't spend in marketing. They stopped developing their websites, but our SEO teams, our UX, our engineering teams have been super busy just to make sure that we have the optimal experience when the consumer lands on AutoTrader. The other thing is the consumer demand. It has gone up by quite a bit, right? So when we looked at the data, we dug into the data, like paid search traffic has been pretty strong. But if you look at organic traffic, direct traffic, app installs, app visits, everything has been skyrocketing. So there are multiple factors. So now, let's dig a little bit deeper and try to understand what's happening. So we have done a lot of research, right? COVID research, working from home research to understand if habits are changing. We obviously collect a lot of data about consumers. That we've done a lot of analysis to understand what's happening. And secondary, we've done a lot of secondary research. We did a lot of reading. We talked to a lot of you guys to understand what's happening in your markets. We have an internal committee that we meet on a regular basis to talk about the market in detail. We bought data to understand, to make sense of this quote unquote puzzle. So I want to share a couple of interesting things with you, but probably the first question, first obvious question that we wanted to understand was, has COVID changed any consumer behavior? So we asked consumers whether they purchased or they're planning to purchase a vehicle because of COVID. So almost one third, around 28% say that they did, but within this 28%, almost half of these people are saying that they're planning to buy a car or they have bought a car because of COVID. So there seems like there's a new demand in the market. I'm just having a, yeah, okay, perfect. So why is there new demand? The Toronto Transit Commission recently reported that they're at 37% capacity. City of Toronto they published this report saying that cab usage is down by 40%. Lyft and Uber rides are down by 65%. So we know that during the COVID, right? Like there's a big decline in these services. But on the other hand, what we wanted to understand is what people would do after COVID, post-COVID. And the results were interesting. So 62% of the people who used to use rideshare said that they would not be using rideshare going forward post-COVID. Same goes for public transportation, right? Almost more than half of the people that responded to our survey said that they would not be using public transportation going forward. So we believe that the fact that the consumer habits are changing has a direct impact on this new demand. And overall, Canadians say that owning a vehicle is much more desirable than public transportation, taking the public transport or using a rideshare. But what I want to do now is, I mean, let's forget about COVID for a while. I know that it's impossible to forget. We are going through very difficult times, but let's forget about COVID for a while and let's look at data prior to COVID in terms of car ownership and overall total cars in the market. So if you look at it, overall, the total cars in the market, total units in operation has been going up steadily since the beginning of 2000, right? So there's like more than 25 million cars on the road. And if you look at ownership, vehicles per driving age population, it's also going up. So there's more and more people, regardless of what's happening with COVID, there has been more interest in vehicle ownership. So we believe that because of what's happening with COVID, this trend will only accelerate. So new demand, new people in the market, which is great. And how are these people gonna wanna buy their cars? So it's obvious that we have this digital retailing product on the site. And we wanted to understand, we asked consumers, how open are you to buying a car digitally since the start of the pandemic? And the results were, again, very interesting. Almost 1/3 of the people said that they didn't consider it before, but they would consider it now. Almost 1/3 of the people. So that's a big number. But being in data and analytics for a long while now, you always need to question. You always need to understand or verify your hypothesis, what you see in the data. So what we wanted to do was, we wanted to look at our own data to see if the fact that the consumers say that they would want to buy their cars online, whether that's the case. So we did this analysis. The team did this analysis, and what we see is those dealers who have digital retailing enabled on the site have much more engagement with their VDPs, and their email conversion rate went up by quite a bit. 12% increase for VDP per inventory and 36% increase in email lead conversion rate. So they say that they want to buy cars online, and when we look at the site, when we did our analysis, we actually see the results that they do in fact prefer digital retailing. And again, just to clarify, because this analysis we normalize for certain things: inventory size, lot size, region, make and models, to make sure that the analysis results are sound. So next, I want to concentrate. I want to look at the economy, the new car sales market holistically, and want to give you a bit of an overview of what the forecast looks like. So this data that we purchased this data from De Rosier. We've been working with them for a while, and the forecast they provided to us is very interesting, and there are a couple of really good insights in them. So as of November, the new car sales were down by year to date around 20%, and with December, the expectation that we're going to end up the year by around minus 18% on a year-over-year basis. But if you look at next year, right, the sales are going to go up, expected to go up by another 18%. So the base is smaller, so we are not going to go back to 2019 levels, but the fact that there's a huge increase in new car sales is promising. But within this, let's peel the onion a little bit further to see if there anything that's interesting that I can share with you. So the way that how the data is cut is the passenger cars passenger cars and light truck sales. So if you look at the passenger car sales forecast, it's probably no surprise to you guys that passenger car sales have been going down considerably since 2015, as you see in this data set, and they are losing market share. On the other hand, light truck sales are both in terms of total units and market share has been going up. The expectation, the forecast is that light truck sales will be around 90% by the end of 2024. But within the light truck segment, let's look at what's interesting. All right. So within the light truck segment, subcompact and compact SUVs grabbed our attention big time. So when I talk about compact and subcompact SUVs, I'm talking about like Honda HR-V, Honda CR-V, Hyundai Kona, Subaru Crosstrek. These type of cars keep gaining market share until in the next few years. So the other interesting thing is, if you remove these vehicles from the data, the outlook looks a little different. If you look at the graph in the bottom, you'll see that it goes down. It's pretty stagnant after. The other interesting finding that we had was the luxury light trucks, right? So their market share is comparatively it's smaller for obvious reasons, and 2021, the expectation is that the market share wise, they're going to stay stable, but come 2022, both the total number of sales and market share is going to go up by quite a bit. So you probably ask why market's there's a lag. So when we looked at the data from 2008 and 2009 financial downturn, there's a year and a half lag in terms of when these sales catch up, luxury sales catch up. So we believe that by 2022, this is another segment to watch. So just to do a little quick recap, and we talked about the marketplace performance. We've been doing our performance has been pretty well in the last few months. Our growth is around 30% in visits. There seems to be new demand because of COVID, and we believe that the decline in public transportation usage and ride sharing has a big contribution to this. And when it comes to how consumers want to buy their cars, they want to use digital retailing, right? E-commerce is the thing now, especially now. And When we shared with you our own data, we see that both engagement and email conversion rate went up by quite a bit. And finally, new car sales, they're expected to go up by 18% next year. So next year is going to be a big one. And within that segment, subcompact and compact SUVs and the luxury market are the ones to watch. So with that, this wraps up my presentation. So thank you for listening in.
Thanks so much, Boris. That was awesome, and really nice to start off on an optimistic note for the future for the industry. And you know, one thing I picked up on there that Boris was talking about was that consumer demand for digital retailing. Many of the audience will know that we've been running a pilot. You know, there was some press coverage over the last couple of weeks about how it's been performing, and Boris shared the stats there. You know, I promise there's not going to be anything too salesy today. This is all about just insight and learning. But currently, we do have a little bit of a special offer going on, a very special offer for this kind of Christmas period. That's how we're thinking of it, this positioning around digital retailing. So if you have any interest in digital retailing, both on your own website and on the marketplace where we saw that super strong consumer engagement, do go along to go.trader.digital retail. Go.trader.ca/digital retail, or speak to your trader representative, because we have got a pretty special offer in market at the moment. And if you are interested in digital retail, it's a good time to learn a little bit more about that. Okay, so thank you very much, Boris. So next speaker is Lillian Lau, and like Boris was talking about, lots of new demand in the market. We saw some of the drivers around that with the ride sharing and the public transportation and the appetite for those things. So Lillian's going to talk us through some primary research that we've done around first-time car buyers. Are they that different? Should you treat them any different? How do you close them? Maybe they're a bit more nervous than normal car buyers, but let's find out as I hand it over now to Lillian Lau. Lillian, if you'd like to unmute yourself and take it away.
Thank you, Ian. As Ian mentioned, we've got a lot of interesting things to talk about when it comes to first-time car buyers. I'm very excited about this topic. You know, I remember my first-time car buying experience. It feels like yesterday. It was much longer than that, unfortunately. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this as well. So in regards to what I will walk you through today, we are going to look at understanding the profile of the first-time car buyer, what impacts their decision-making. We'll also look at their attitudes around car ownership and frame the buying experience for them. How does this differ from experienced car buyers? And then the tips and tricks that would really help close that sale with consumers, especially because they're first-time car buyers. Just to highlight, you know, how this research came about, recognizing that there was this new demand out of COVID, we wanted to understand if there was a difference between experienced car shoppers and new car shoppers. And the other interesting thing for us is, as I mentioned, we have the largest audience of car buyers in Canada. So coming to AutoTrader, it's really a great way for us to ask our consumers, you know, how they think about car buying and understand the differences between those that are first-time car buyers and those that are experienced car buyers. So we'll get right into it. So in terms of how the insights are set up that we're going to walk through, it was done in two different surveys. The first survey that we ran back in August into September, asking our audience base of over 1,000 people, is we wanted to first profile the first-time car buyer. How are they different than experienced car buyers in regards to demographics, in regards to, you know, how they shop? The second survey that we recently just ran, starting in October, and we just closed it, was to then understand how do we attract and handle and then close these sales with these consumers. So that's how we've broken out the research and how we will share the insights with you today. The first-time car buyer profile. If we were to, you know, if I were to ask you, hey, what do you think a first-time car buyer looks like? I'm fairly certain some of these insights will line up to what you've believed to be the case. First-time car buyers are generally younger. On average, they're about 27 years old. That was the median age. They have lower household income, you know, less than those that are experienced car buyers. and they're more likely to be employed part-time, or they're more likely to be students, going back to the fact that they would have lower household income. And how do these first-time car buyers shop? They tend to rely more heavily on family and friends. Without their own personal experience in buying a car and being new to the process, they are going to rely on others that might have already gone through that experience before. So there's more influence that they have when it comes to friends and family. While they spend a little bit more time researching up front, the total time to purchase is fairly similar to experienced car buyers. So first-time car buyers spend a little bit more time just researching the information as they're considering and narrowing down their car choices. And lastly, being younger, more exposed to the digital space over time, they're more willing to use online tools throughout the purchase process. And that will be important as we look at the ways that you would attract and influence first-time car buyers in the future. Not surprising, oops, that was a little bit too far, sorry. Not surprisingly, as we mentioned, because first-time car buyers do have lower incomes, are less likely to be employed full-time, they're more budget conscious. As a result of those two factors, they are more likely generally to purchase a pre-owned vehicle. In terms of the resources that first-time car buyers use, what we asked first-time car buyers and experienced car buyers, how do they shop and how do they do their research? When we saw differences were in regards to the fact that first-time car buyers, as I mentioned earlier, really do rely more heavily on friends and family. So, they're 2 times more likely to say family is important to them in their as a source of insight when they're researching. Friends come up as well, as does the use of online videos, whether that's YouTube or video content on different websites. They are, however, a little less likely to use dealership websites in their research process, and they're a little less likely to visit dealerships themselves. But however, first-time car buyers are equally as likely as experienced car buyers to use automotive marketplaces like autoTRADER and manufacturer websites in their research process. So now that we have a general understanding of the profile of first-time car buyer, how do we actually attract these first-time car buyers? So the first thing we wanted to understand is whether or not, when we asked our consumers, have you decided yet if you will be purchasing from a dealership? There wasn't too much difference between those that were experienced car buyers and those that were first-time car buyers, but we actually saw that 50% of consumers of first-time car buyers haven't yet decided whether or not they're going to purchase from a dealership, which is great. There's a lot of ability to influence these individuals. So knowing that, we asked those that didn't quite yet decide whether they wanted to go visit or purchase from a dealership, what would it take for you to decide to purchase from a dealership? I'm going to preface this first with, I will be showing a few bar charts. I've deliberately excluded the actual percentages and actual numbers at each individual bar chart, just because it could be a lot of numbers. But what I want to focus on is the relative difference between first-time car buyers and experienced car buyers. Sometimes, the impacts of both are the same, but I really want to focus on the difference in terms of how you might interact differently with a first-time car buyer. So in regards to this slide, how would a first-time car buyer decide to purchase from a dealership? And we compare that with those that are experienced car buyers. And you can see that a lot of these elements and attributes were more important to a first-time car buyer. And what they said to us is at the end of the day, they would change their minds and actually buy from a dealership if they had an experience that was simplified and guided, and more importantly, left them feeling confident that they were making the right investment and that they were getting the right value for the car that they needed. So really, the big thing for first-time car buyers is they want to feel confident and not intimidated by the process, a lot more so than experienced car buyers who've already gone through this before in the past. So how many dealerships will someone visit? So of those that said, yeah, I'm going to purchase from a dealership, we asked them, how many dealerships will you visit? The numbers were actually fairly similar, but first-time car buyers said they'd visit dealerships a little bit more than experienced car buyers. That makes sense. They have less personal experience in car shopping, so they don't have a preferred dealership, and they don't even necessarily have a preferred brand. So really, we know that first-time car buyers, those that do plan on visiting dealerships, will visit, more dealerships than experienced car buyers, a much larger pool for them to compare and contrast where they want to purchase the car from. So, what actually makes a consumer choose a specific dealership to visit? So again, I'm going to focus more on the relative differences in this slide. More important for first-time car buyers than experienced car buyers are things like special deals or offers. This goes back to, again, knowing that they're feeling confident they're getting the best value. Good customer reviews. That is more important for first-time car buyers than experienced car buyers. Without personal experience, and maybe even friends that have gone through it as much in the past, they're going to rely on other people that have gone through this. And in the digital age that we're in now, reviews really do dominate the internet. So having those good customer reviews really will matter for first-time car buyers. And it's important as well for experienced car buyers, but a little bit more so for these first-time car buyers is that there's transparent pricing. So really understanding the price that they see is really the price that they pay. So going back to what we heard earlier, knowing that the more budget conscious, it is important that they know what the deals or offers are, and really giving them that confidence that the dealerships that they're visiting have been vetted from previous people through good customer reviews and that transparent pricing as well. If somebody comes to your dealership, how do you interact with these first-time car buyers? How do they differ in their approach than experienced car buyers? So to understand that, we wanted to look at two areas. The attitudes of first-time car buyers, in regards to owning a car and their car ownership experiences, and what are the areas that, as a dealership, you can influence when it comes to first-time car buyers. So we'll start first with the attitudes of first-time car buyers. And even if you reflect back on yourself, when I saw these results, I thought of my experience and it really did resonate. First-time car buyers, as we know, are predominantly younger, and their attitudes, do differ from those that are more experienced, especially when it comes to the sense of self and the identity that owning a car gives. So the two areas I want to focus on here, although it actually plays well throughout this particular chart, is first-time car buyers were a lot more likely to say that car shopping is fun. For them, more than 60% agreed that, car shopping is actually an exciting and fun experience. And then, the belief for consumers that cars reflect who you are to some extent. So the car that you drive reflects who you are. If you look at some of the other results, a car is a necessity, not a privilege or luxury. First-time car buyers didn't actually say that. That wasn't nearly as strong as what experienced car buyers believe. Potentially, as experienced car buyers, are purchasing cars, later in life. They've done it a few times. They're thinking of it very in practical terms. This for first-time consumers is really an event. And if I recall, even the first time I purchased a car, I thought it was exciting. I felt like I had made it. So car shopping for them is fun and it's exciting. Lean into that excitement for consumers because this is something special for them. It's very exciting from their point of view. So it's really important to tailor your interactions with these buyers and appeal to their sense of self in order to help handle these customers and then eventually close that deal. Oh, there we go. The other area that I want to focus on, when you have that first-time car buyer standing in front of you, is recognizing that even though people make decisions up front or believe they've made decisions up front, oftentimes they can change their mind. So what we asked, first-time car buyers and experienced car buyers is, when you were purchasing your car earlier in the process, what are the areas that you felt like you had already decided upon? What areas did you feel like, I know what I want? Now, generally what we saw is on average, experienced car buyers tended to have their minds made up a little bit more than first-time car buyers, more so in regards to things like whether or not to finance, the key features and the model. But even first-time car buyers generally said that, I already know that I'm whether I'm going to purchase or lease. I know the price I want to pay. I know the model I want, the make I want. And those still came out really strongly. However, we then asked consumers, even though you thought early on that you had made these decisions, did you later change your mind? And surprisingly, a lot of people actually did change their mind. So the areas that we found consumers, first-time consumers, tended to change their mind on was the price of the car, the model of the car, and the make of the car. So even though, for instance, 80% of people, first-time car buyers, said, I totally knew what price I want to pay. That's my budget. 58% of these people ended up changing their mind later. Same thing with make. So, more than 70% already believed they knew the make. 58% of them also changed their mind afterwards as they went through the process a little bit further. Other areas where consumers, first-time buyers also did change their mind was the type of car, whether or not it was a sedan, an SUV, or a truck, and also whether it was new or pre-owned. So even though they might have gone in thinking, okay, I definitely know I want a pre-owned vehicle, they might have changed their mind for a new car. And if you even reflect on yourself, and the first time you potentially purchased a car, you probably did a lot of research. You probably had in your mind, this is what I want to do. But as you went through the process and really, thought about your needs, those things changed. So you might run into somebody that comes into the dealership and says, I know exactly what I want. These are the things that I need. Don't take that at face value, because sometimes as a first-time car buyer, they actually might not know what they need. And if I reflect on myself, I was one of those individuals too, remembering that I originally thought I would want a pre-owned vehicle and then ended up purchasing for myself as my first car, a new vehicle. So that's really important to understand, what these consumers are looking for, because they're actually very likely to change their mind. So closing the sale, we've already talked about the fact that these first-time car buyers will visit almost 4 dealerships in their purchase process. Well, how do you get somebody to actually choose your particular dealership to buy from? At the end of the day, what's really going to be important is that first-time car buyers are going to purchase from the dealership that they feel the most confident with, more so than experienced car buyers. Again, focusing on the relative differences. Good customer reviews still came out on top, more so for those first-time car buyers. It was really important for first-time car buyers to know that dealership's been backed by good customer reviews. Transparent pricing. We've talked about this before. Making these consumers feel that, okay, the pricing that I'm being shown really is the pricing that I'll be paid, and making them feel like they will get that great price. Another area that was important for first-time car buyers, more so than experienced car buyers, goes back to their affinity to use online in the car shopping process. So 45% of these new car buyers or first-time car buyers said that having online tools to complete either all or some of their purchase journey online was really important. We talked about digital retail earlier and having that opportunity for consumers to use. Well, it is important in this world of online, offline being very seamless, and especially for these first-time car buyers that tend to be younger, they're very used to having great online experiences. The other thing I will touch upon a bit here is the fact that first-time car buyers, 30% of them, more than 30% say they want to like the salespeople at the dealership. And liking the salesperson at the dealership is really going to also help them decide to purchase from that specific dealership. So with that, I know it was a lot of information, wrapping this up, the key takeaways. What does this mean for you when it comes to first-time car buyers? So the good news is, first-time car buyers, they will visit many dealerships. The ones that are ready to buy from a dealership will visit many of them. So how do you attract them to yours? Make your offers and promotions front and center. We saw that in the very first area of attracting a first-time car buyer. They want to know what your offers are. So offers and promotions are important to them. They're lower household income, more budget conscious, that matters. Leverage transparent pricing tools. to help consumers feel confident that they're getting the best price. One of the things that I think consumers just want to know is that they're really getting the right value for the car that they're looking for. And this last point in this area is important actually across all of the areas of the selling process, is really managing and monitoring your online reviews. We've seen that consistently sounds important to these first-time car buyers. Without a lot of their own personal experience, they're going to rely on collective experiences. So, respond to the negative ones. They want to know that you're there and responsive if something, could go wrong or happens. But be sure to promote the positive ones. Highlight your great customer experience. Highlight how you can really help these first-time car buyers find the right car for them. When it comes to handling the sale, I think the important thing is that you really have a lot more influence than you may think. Handle these consumers, well with care. Make car buying fun. Engage in the excitement. I remember my first time car buying experience. It was really exciting for me. It was, as I mentioned earlier, it felt like I had made it. And I think a lot of customers that are coming into this dealership, it's an event for them. Not only are first-time car buyers less certain on their desired car, but they're also very likely to still change their mind. So as I mentioned, focus on the consumer and focus on what they're really looking for. They very may well buy that new car. They might spend more for the relevant features and decide on a different model after all. Seek to understand them. Recognize that they're viewing this car as a reflection of who they are. And then finally, to close that sale, hold their hand through this process. They don't know what the process is like. They're intimidated by it. Help them by simplifying it for them. Hold their hand and make them feel comfortable and confident in what they're getting to close that sale. Offer them a variety of online tools to interact with you the way that they want to. Really let the consumer be able to have that choice. Ensure that transition between online and offline is very seamless, and build that relationship. So, a third of those customers said that it's important that they like the salesperson that they're dealing with. So if you're interacting with them offline, when they're coming into the store, have that same point of contact be there, because that will be important. So with these, hopefully with this presentation, these insights, this might help you understand the first-time car buyer a little bit more, and using some of these tips and tricks to help you interact with them to close the sale. So thank you very much. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you so much, and hope that was enjoyable.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Some really good insights there from that primary research that we've been running on first-time car buyers. And turns out maybe we do need to think about tailoring the experience a little bit and approaching them differently based on the research that we've seen. There's a lot of them out there, as we saw earlier, into the market. So well worth learning about and thinking about. Okay, so at this stage in proceedings, I think that we have, yes, it's going to be the first of our polls. So by answering this question, you will have the chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Good timing with Christmas around the corner. The winners are going to be drawn at random from those who get the answer correct, and we'll announce that in the post-event communication. So right about now, the question should be appearing on your screen. I believe the question is going to be, what percentage of growth did the AutoTrader marketplace achieve for visits and VDPs from May to October 2020? So I'll give you a moment to select your answer to that. It's funny thinking back on that. It's just as Barish mentioned, when COVID first hit and those first couple of months, and as many of you who were partnering with us back at that time will remember, we made the decision to go free because we knew what a challenging time it was going to be, in the very short term for our dealer partners and for the industry. And I can remember us thinking, should we keep investing in marketing and the site and development and things like that? Because that's a bold decision. And it's so nice in business, for us, and I'm sure for all of you, when a bold decision pays off. And coming out of, we made the decision that COVID wasn't forever. It wasn't going to be forever, and that we should continue investing in consumer marketing and the site experience. And so it proved that, as the market came back, we were able to increase our market share and achieve some really good growth. Speaking of which, the answer was 29% growth in visits and 22% growth in VDP views year over year for that post-COVID period, May through to October 2020. Okay, so I hope that you got that right. Now, at this stage, we're going to move into the first of our external speakers. And, you know, I'm so happy that we were able to invite Chris Schulthes to come on and join us on Carology today, because this is really good stuff. This is very, very operational and just in time as well. You know, I think some of the stuff we're going to hear from Chris is going to be really good food for thought over the Christmas break. Hopefully some of us get to take a little break over Christmas there. So I'm going to be talking to Chris about 3 key steps to finish off this year strong. There's a little bit of time left in this year, but most importantly, start off 2021 on the right foot. So Chris, do I have you with me?
I think I'm with you, Ian. Thank you.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for joining us. So I guess right off the top, it would be great to hear a little bit about who you are and introduce yourself and your company. Who is Chris Schulthes? Let's tell the audience.
Oh, great. Thank you. I am the president of Y Management. We are a training and consulting firm that's exclusive in the automotive space. We've been in business just coming up to 30 years. I personally have been in the industry for 34 years in both the retail side of the business as well as training and consulting. As an organization, we work with dealerships, dealer groups. We also work with independent used car dealers as well as the OEMs. We're a proud training partner of the UCDA. We've worked with 13 OEMs. We've launched 5 certified pre-owned programs in Canada and the United States. And we work coast to coast in Canada, the United States. We've also worked in Germany, as well as with even Lexus, Russia. More importantly, all of us, including myself, most of our work is on ground at dealership level, where we work with teams right inside their own environment.
Fantastic, Chris. You sound like the perfect guest for us to talk to here on Carology. So well done to the Trader Carology team on reaching out to Chris and convincing him to join us for just half an hour here to talk through these 3 key steps. So speaking of which, Chris, I mean, just at the highest level, what are in broad strokes, what are the 3 key areas that you and I are going to be talking about today?
Well, one, commit to a used vehicle business model and what we call your unique value proposition. In other words, do you have an established business model? Number 2, update, modernize your showroom sales process to reflect today's buyer. And 3, implement a digital or e-lead sales process to complement.
This sounds like great stuff. So, well, let's get straight into it then with that first kind of area. So you mentioned about used vehicle business models, and I know this is something that you speak about in some depth during your workshops. Can you elaborate on those? What are the different kind of models?
Well, Ian, there are essentially 4 models that we've identified in the marketplace, and these can cross over between independent used car dealers and franchised. The first model is what we call the superstore. Now, these are generally independent used car dealers. They have a large 200 plus vehicle inventories. Websites are modern and easy to navigate, and they also match and look like their partner sites, such as autoTRADER. Interestingly enough, a lot of these superstores employ a one price, no haggle, no negotiation pricing policy, as well as price to market pricing strategies. These larger organizations typically turn their inventory every 30 days or faster. Prices are often lower than franchise dealers because there's minimal or no mechanical reconditioning, but the vehicles are nicely detailed. So examples of these types of organizations would be H. Gregoire in Laval, Canada's largest seller of used vehicles, Auto Planet in Brampton, Ontario, the Auto Park organization in Burlington. This model generates slightly lower front-end gross profit, but high F&I gross profit. In short, high volume, lower prices, minimal reconditioning. Model 2 is what we like to call quality and community. This is typically a dealership with 50 plus vehicles in inventory. This dealership is a fixture in the community. It's often generational, grandfather, son, grandson, and has an excellent reputation for selling higher quality vehicles and high ethical business practices. Now, there's some price negotiation. The vehicles are mechanically and cosmetically reconditioned to a very high standard. Pricing is slightly higher than superstores because of the additional reconditioning. And because this dealership is often generational within the community with a very strong reputation, the vehicles typically command a slightly higher gross profit. So in short, in this business model, it's slightly lower volume, slightly higher prices, but maximum reconditioning. Model 3 is what we call wholesaler retailer. A smaller 10 to 20 vehicle inventory of less expensive vehicles, generally under $15,000, as well as is vehicles. Lots of old style price negotiation. This dealership typically does not have a website, but would rely solely on autoTRADER only. The vehicles are not reconditioned, and this model typically generates very low gross profit and often low or no F&I gross profit. Smaller organizations across the country. And Model 4 is a manufacturer's certified pre-owned program. This is typically a new vehicle franchise dealership that operates a fully compliant manufacturer certified pre-owned program. There's some price negotiation. Vehicles are mechanically and cosmetically reconditioned to a very high standard as set out by the manufacturer. There's strong use of point of sale materials to identify the partnership with the manufacturer. And these vehicles typically come inclusive in the price with a manufacturer's warranty, exchange privilege, and in some cases, even subvented interest rate. Now, this model generates moderate front-end gross profit, healthy F&I gross profits. However, because reconditioning standards are high, the service department also makes higher gross profit from these typical vehicles. Now, as a training organization, what we're simply trying to suggest or assist dealerships with is to choose, define, and stick to a used vehicle business model. In other words, choose your lane, decide what you want to be. Sometimes from our perspective, it seems that this changes every time there's a change in used vehicle manager or a senior manager in the marketplace. And secondly, whatever that model, clearly communicated internally with all of the stakeholders. That would be sales consultants, service managers, technicians, everybody. So everybody understands what we want to represent and how we want to sell used vehicles in the marketplace. Back to you.
Well, that's very comprehensive, Chris. I think, and hopefully, sort of most of the audience can see themselves in one of those different models. As you said, I suppose it's not just in marketing, but in business in general. You know, knowing oneself, like you said, you got to know what lane you're playing in. It's going to affect everything to where you advertise and the type of customers that you want to bring in, and you have to know what it is that you're at and what your strategy is. So, thinking about that, one of the other things that you talk about is having understood what kind of model you are or you want to be, and be consistent with that. You talk about unique value propositions, unique selling propositions, but how does that that's a kind of a marketing theory, I guess. How does that pertain to dealerships? So they understand what kind of model they're in or they want to be in, and then how would you describe what a unique value proposition is for a dealer? Because as we know, it's super competitive out there. We just saw from Lillian, users are considering a few different dealerships. How does that unique value proposition help?
I'll start by saying many dealerships, both franchised and independent, have an excellent UVP. They just don't know it and they don't talk about it.
Right.
So our definition of a unique value proposition is a clear statement that describes the benefit of your offer, how you solve your customers' needs, and what distinguishes you from the competition. I'll also refer to this as the inclusions in your price. In other words, what do I get that's already included in the price that you've advertised? So this could be, for example, a provincial safety inspection, 100 or an 85 point inspection, mechanical reconditioning, cosmetic reconditioning, executive detailing, recalls completed, maintenance up to date on a sold vehicle, a fresh lube oil and filter, a full tank of gas, a Carfax vehicle history report, maybe even a 30-day or a 3-month, 5,000 kilometer powertrain warranty. Now, with respect to UVPs, Canada's top selling used vehicle dealers will have a long list. But what they do in their marketing approach is they really key in on and focus on only 3 or 4 of them. 3 or 4 of these inclusions as not to complicate their marketing. And they focus on this with respect to their website, their auto trader listings, social media, and even their point of sale materials, and especially with their sales consultants. Notably, independent used car dealers, in our opinion, are leading the pack with a big focus on UVPs. And here's the interesting part. Most of Canada's top selling independent used car dealers are now offering within their UVP a credible warranty, one price selling, absolute no negotiation, and customers clearly prefer this. We're seeing huge growth in this area, an exchange privilege, and even money back guarantees. When I look at the top 5 sellers of used vehicles in Canada, 4 of them would offer all of these things. So where sometimes they're viewed as behind the times, really a lot of our independent used car dealers are way out in front right now.
That's fascinating. And yeah, it's that thing you mentioned as a marketer. It's so easy to say, it's harder to do. But once you do hit on what that value proposition is and who you are, being consistent through every touch point, like you mentioned. So if you are, if you're listing on marketplaces, trying to reflect that DNA, that value prop there, as well as you do on your website, and then through even to the the in-person experience at the dealership and things like that, right? Like the salespeople need to embody what it is that you've laid out as your unique value proposition. Yeah, and fascinating, as you said, to hear that those kind of independent dealers are leading the pack on that. I think the fixed price thing is interesting too. As we've seen, right, we do a lot of different research, and one of the things that consumers kind of consistently say they find difficult or they don't look forward to is the price negotiation piece. So more dealerships kind of saying, look, this is a fair price, but this is the price. I think that's probably going to be more in demand, especially as we move into a digital retailing kind of world. But even before that, that's something I think consumers take comfort in. And actually, even in research we've done, they've said, I'm okay if I don't get the very best deal I possibly could. And yeah, if it's a few $100 more, but I just don't want the prospect of negotiating too much. It's something that consumers, I guess, don't enjoy so much. At least that's what we see. So interesting that the market is moving towards that single no haggle price point.
Indeed.
But speaking of which, I know one of the other things that you talk about a lot, and it's getting very operational now, and it's somewhat related to what we were just talking about with price and so forth, but the showroom sales process. So this is something that I've heard you speak a lot about. What are the key aspects that you'd advise the audience to consider when they're creating or updating a showroom sales process?
3 things: faster and more efficient, more transparent, and more informative. So if I was able to break those down, here would be some thoughts behind each of these 3 components. Number 1, faster and more efficient. Sales consultants are being asked to utilize sometimes 3, 4 or even 5 different types of software tools during the sales process, there's too much redundancy and duplication. This slows the selling of the vehicle down to a grind. Technology is imperative, but some dealers and managers are not conscientious of the duplication and how it's actually taking us backwards, not forwards. To offer express finance pre-approval services near the beginning of your sales process. Customers, both with poor and excellent credit, are very nervous about the credit decisioning process and would like to get this done at the beginning of their showroom experience, not the end. And even, again, high beacon score, excellent credit customers are nervous because a lot of them are carrying a lot of personal debt via home equity lines of credit, etc. 3, customer trade-in should be appraised early in the sales process, not at the end of the sales process. And ideally, more than one person should be trained to appraise trade-ins as not to cause bottlenecks on busy selling days. This is often a big point, a big bone of contention, the trade-in value. Deal with it early, proactively, and positively. And I'm not naive. I'm not suggesting that we just appraise vehicles and here's your value, Mr. Jones, and off they go. We're not, again, naive to the realities of consumers, but to suggest, hey, Mr. Lee, we'll get your vehicle appraised straight away. It's obviously free of charge. There's no obligation. I'm sure that you'll want to have a value on this vehicle before you leave us today. 4, sales managers need to change from a slow the customer down mantra to an all hands on deck attitude with a willingness to expedite payment options quickly, ensuring that when a customer wants information, it's the only focus of management. In other words, there's a lot of distraction in a dealership. I might add to that, effective sales processes have all sales managers meet customers within 10 minutes of them entering the building. You know, just as a thank you, we appreciate the opportunity, and I will serve as another point of contact within the organization. B, more transparent. Transparency is almost an overdone, cliched word, but with respect to more transparency, post your showroom sales process. Be proud of it. Put it in a frame in your showroom or stencil it on the glass of your dealership. Post it on your website. Post it on your social media. Tell people what's going to happen when they come to your dealership. Let them participate. Provide open access to Carfax vehicle history reports on online vehicle listings. Try to avoid the capture tool. People click off. In the photo series of the online listings on their own website, as well as autoTRADER, take a photo of the vehicle inspection checklist. Take a photo of the repair order, the what's included in the price or your UVP. Have that all photographed so that they also see it when they're swiping through the actual photos. And as simple as this might sound, provide more information to the actual vehicles that are on the lot. That includes price and it features listings. I always like to say, hello, it's 2020, not 1970. Get the prices on the cars. You have prices on your virtual lot. Why not your physical lot? Maybe even colored stickers to help sales consultants identify the source of the cars. And as sales consultants, they need to be prepared to proactively answer the 3 most common questions a customer poses when they walk on the lot. Early, customers ask, how much is it? Where did the vehicle come from? And has it been accident damaged? They need to have the information at their fingertips when they're outside on the lot. In terms of transparency, we also need to provide customers with vehicle pricing and best price if requested, trade-in values, interest rate information, especially on pre-owned, monthly and bi-weekly payment information, And we must provide all of this even if they're not ready to make a decision today. And last on that point of updating the showroom sales process, it needs to be much more informative. Explain the used vehicle pricing policy early on in the sales process to manage expectations. It could be, you know, Mr. Lee, proudly we've invested in the industry's latest technology. This technology allows us to view up to 10,000 automotive websites every 2 hours in real time and bring that information back to us so that we can do two things. Number one, we can price our vehicles at the absolute best value in the marketplace, and two, pay the most for trade-ins. So just like you, we also do our homework. Let's manage expectations of negotiation or non-negotiation early. Review the what's included in the price of your used vehicles and your unique value proposition early. And also, before test drives, review the vehicle's what we call autobiography. That would be the vehicle inspection checklist, a repair order, and the Carfax vehicle history report. Let's get that done. As already stated earlier, that's the confidence builder, especially when we have newer buyers entering the marketplace. As we like to suggest, if you want customers to trust you, you have to start trusting them first. Remove possible concerns with respect to buying a used vehicle and all the roadblocks in your sales process accordingly.
Well, Chris, I mean, that sounds like a great dealership experience, the way that you describe it. I think, you know, from my own personal experience, some of that stuff really resonated, especially, you know, the thing about when people walk into the dealership and acknowledging them and have within 10 minutes and that kind of thing. And like you said, if that is a rule that you have, put it on the wall. I know, you know, myself, I've had that experience, and obviously an unnamed franchise dealership that I've wandered into. Nobody says hello. I left after 15 minutes, bought the car somewhere else. So I think having those processes, you know, process keeps performance strong, and it's about drilling it right through the organization, like with your earlier point, right? It's one thing for people to come up with a process and put it out there, but it's making it real and making sure that people throughout the whole dealership get that and follow that. Great advice. So I think that the last element that you mentioned, the third element we were going to talk about today, was about e-leads. And, you know, this is one that's super close to my heart for obvious reasons. But, you know, just as kind of background on my take on this, because I think it's helpful. You know, we do these surveys called on-the-lot surveys periodically over the last few years. And one of the reasons that we do those is we're trying to understand where, you know, when consumers manifest as a walk-in for a dealership, you know, I think a lot of times dealers consider that as, you know, that's a strong lead. And you know, they're right to, because the conversion rate is good on walk-ins and things like that. And also the customer's right in front of you. It's easy to sell, that they can't ghost you, to use a sort of modern term. But so doing these on-the-lot surveys, one of the things we've seen over the last sort of quite a few years, to be fair, is fewer and fewer consumers wanting to submit leads either through the dealer's website or through a marketplace like autoTRADER. And, you know, they're becoming more internet savvy. So they look at the car, they're interested, they see the name of the dealer, and then they don't submit a lead. You know, they turn up in person because they know where it is, or maybe they go off to Google and they read some reviews, and it all gets very muddy in terms of the dealer being able to understand, but where did that user find my car? Obviously that's important, so they know where to invest and where to get visibility for their cars. And, you know, we saw in our surveys on average, it was as high as 2/3 of the walk-ins had found the car online, but they'd never submitted a lead. They'd just kind of manifested as a walk-in. Makes it really confusing for dealers to understand where people are finding the cars, makes it challenging for businesses like us to work with dealers, because it's in both our interests to understand which users are being sent by autoTRADER and which aren't. But with the onset of COVID and, you know, a lot of dealerships moving to an appointment only model, what we saw was that compliance with that lead process, the thing that we would all prefer consumers do is send a lead and then we all know where they came from, that actually went up in the last few months. And we've seen more and more leads coming through the marketplace because people don't want to walk in. They want to set a time and turn up and be physically distanced. And the trials that we've been doing with digital retailing have only accelerated that. So I think in the future, there's going to be sort of more leads than ever, because you're going to have traditional leads, you're going to have digital retailing leads, which is somebody's begun the process and they've been digging around the credit application process or something, but they're known to the dealer. Anyway, that's a long way of getting to saying to you, when it comes to digital leads, be they traditional digital leads or digital retailing digital leads, how are they different to a walk-in lead? How should they be treated differently? Do you find that that's an area that's maybe a bit overlooked in some of the dealerships that you work with in terms of importance and things like that?
Oh, by all means. And I think what we suggest is e-leads are the new walk-ins.
Right.
And that's certainly going to be moving forward. So I think what we suggest is an e-lead sales process or a digital sales process, with the thought process, when we ask sales consultants and sales managers, look, how much time would you spend with somebody that walked into your dealership if you felt they had interest in buying a car? And inevitably, right across the country, as long as it takes, it doesn't matter, 3 hours, 5 hours all day. And to which we respond, why would it be any different with a digital customer? So now we sell two customers. We sell walk-ins in our bricks and mortar, and we sell digital customers in our digital dealership. So I think what we suggest, we work with a 5-step sales process, digital, which somewhat mirrors our 5-step sales process, showroom. But the key is, it is a sales process, and that's what we try to suggest. And whether this is done by a dedicated team, whether it's done by a BDC, or whether it's done by all the sales consultants, it really doesn't change how we would go about it. So as a quick example, when an e-lead comes in, it's critical that we get out a speed reply, that it's answered within 3 minutes. That's our benchmark. Next, a hello video. This is 20 seconds to add a little bit of personalization. This can be done from many dealerships' operating systems or some simple apps. Next is what we call the big content reply, where we're actually going to sit down with a coffee and maybe with the help of the sales manager, determine how we're going to answer this inquiry. And there are some definite protocols that need to be followed. Next step would be some sort of vehicle or tech video. Again, only 1 or 2 minutes. It could simply focus on one super cool piece of technology on that vehicle. It could be simply walking a camera around a vehicle to show what superb condition it's in. Next would be a sales manager hello video. Again, in showroom sales processes, we advocate that sales managers get involved within 10 minutes. Why would that be different with digital? Let's get the boss involved in introducing him or herself. And again, even if it's just a fundamental thank you. And then new information. A digital customer needs to be nurtured for a longer period of time than a showroom customer. Showroom customers will transact anywhere from 72 hours to 14 days. A digital customer can go a month before the bulk of our business is actually done. So we have to touch the customer daily or every other day with new information, helpful resources that let them know, hey, we're out here, we're not bothering you, we're not harassing you. Please let me know if you've already purchased a vehicle and I'll stop communication. But if not, we want to let you know that we're very interested in your business and we'll continue to provide you new information that might ultimately help in your decision-making process. Now, Ian, whether that be a dealership's digital sales process, I think what we advocate is let's build one. Instead of, hey, we just got a guy upstairs that answers them. We don't really know what he does up there. It's the nerd. There's 2 of them up there and we don't even know their names. That's typically how e-leads have been, really looked upon in past. An e-lead sales process is now mainstream, and many dealerships are actually getting more e-leads than walk-ins. So again, it's the new walk-in as we see it, not in every market, but quickly, certainly with our big urban markets.
Yeah, and again, especially these days with what's going on and the advent of technology, it's, you know, users can do even more of the process and the research, you know, through digital retailing and stuff than they could before. It makes complete sense what you're saying. It's, you know, because you send a digital lead, and like we saw in the research earlier, you know, it does matter to people that they're dealing with a human. You know, who are you? You know, why wouldn't you? And I suppose in many ways you can have it somewhat automated and off the shelf. Doesn't need to take a lot of time on an ongoing basis to say, hey, you know, this is who I am. I'm who you're going to be dealing with. Here's what our dealership believes in. You know, here's some of our value propositions, right? Here's our unique stuff that we do. Here's why you should buy with us. Yeah, rather than perhaps what, I don't know, you know, what a more standard response might be. Yeah, sure, you can come see the car. You know, what time suits you? More of
Right.
an introduction to the dealership. And so I guess, I mean, perhaps part of the reason, and I guess it's tempting for dealers, is there's more leads because they're not sat in front of you. I guess it can be harder to sort of sort the wheat from the chaff, if you like, than it is, you know, with a walk-in. You know, experienced salespeople can size up, you know, this person's serious or not, fairly quickly. And I think I know the answer from what you were just saying, but what would be your sort of advice on ways to filter that out or to sort of qualify the leads as they come in? I was thinking, well, if you start engaging with some of the advice you've just given and you're not getting anything back, then you know, okay, they're not so serious. But if they're engaging with you and the things that you're saying, then maybe that's how you validate them. But what would your advice be for how you can lead score, qualify, validate, however you want to call it, these digital leads that are flying into the dealership?
A great question. Number one, what I find fascinating is that the men and women across Canada that answer e-leads, they are either designated digital sales consultants or just happen to answer a lot of them, become quickly very skilled at, almost by intuition, almost by repetition, being able to filter them out just with certain word usage. I find that they learn this skill very quickly. Number two, sometimes I get in trouble for saying this, weaker leads often come from the manufacturer. Versus through autoTRADER or through the actual dealership's website. So the skilled digital sales consultants tend to go right after anything that's coming from autoTRADER or anything from obviously their own website, and they prioritize those. Three, they look for duplication. Sometimes there's all kinds of duplication, and for some reason that's problematic. It's somebody that's left information everywhere. Ironically, it would seem to sense that that's a serious buyer, but for some reason it's actually the opposite. And within speed replies, even in a digital world, a speed reply can be something as quick as, hi Ian, it's Chris, digital sales consultant at Future Ford, received your inquiry, thank you so much, really appreciate it. You have asked for information pertaining to a trade-in value. I have a few questions for you that will speed up this process because I am going to provide you a value. Where can I reach you in the next 5 minutes? And sometimes seeing if you can take that conversation offline to test interest, and but in doing so, telling that particular e-lead, look, I'm going to give you everything you want and more. And sometimes it's just a little test, because what we do know is when our sales consultants do take customers offline, their conversion ratios skyrocket, meaning from e-lead to actual showroom. So it doesn't mean we're old school. We're just testing. If the customer says, no, I prefer to communicate this way, not a problem. But many of them, when we suggest, hey, I just want to save you some time here, because I am going to get you the information you want. I just find it's faster if we can have a really quick phone conversation. You'd be surprised how many people just shoot a cell phone number right away.
Yeah.
And so some of these things will test the legitimacy of the leads.
It's great advice. Yeah, I think, well, that's key, isn't it? Like I said, with the volume of them that come in. And also, the quicker you get back to them and start validating them, you know, the quicker you can move on and get to the ones that are serious, rather than building up a backlog. And it's a mix of, you know, really serious buyers and you know, maybe there's the odd person who's less serious kind of thing. So jumping on them and applying the process is key. Well, listen, Chris, we're on time there, but wow, I learned a hell of a lot. So thank you so much for joining us. And you'll be back towards the end in about half an hour or so for our Q&A period. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions from our audience, but I just want to thank you for taking the time again. As I said, very busy time of year. And I really appreciate you coming to speak to us and give us your insights and thoughts on all the expertise that you have from the automotive game.
Ian, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to speak in this forum and to our dealers. And I'm very much looking forward to Mr. King.
Thanks very much, Chris. Okay, so I believe that next we have another one of our poll breaks. Yes, here we are. So the poll question should be appearing on your screen right now. And I believe the question is to do with first-time buyers. So in order to attract and effectively close first-time buyers, which of these following options that you should be seeing is absolutely imperative? So cast your mind back to Lillian Lau's presentation and what we were learning about first-time buyers. Select your answer, and in just a few seconds, I'll reveal the correct answer. Yes, of course, it's all of the above. Actively manage your online reviews. First-time buyers pay more attention to them, seek them out more actively, although they're important for every buyer. Make the car buying process fun. Provide a seamless transition between the online and in-store shopping experience. Very similar to what Chris was just saying, actually, being able to have a seamless to and fro. And again, I guess it's becoming a bit of a theme of the day. That's what the digital retailing thing's all about. Right now, it's not really so much about people doing the whole checkout online. It's actually more about this seamless in-store, online, back to offline, and allowing them to have one single process that both your salespeople and the consumer can pick up at any time, be that in person or be that online, and keep kicking that ball forward, because that's what we want, is to close deals and move metal. Okay, so hopefully you got that one correct. We're moving into our final speaker of the day, and it is Nick King, Director of Insights at autoTRADER over there in the UK. Nick's beaming in from London, and I guess another kind of silver lining of the virtual event is saved us a couple of bucks on airfare. But Nick is going to be speaking to us about adapting and winning in a mass forced tech adoption. So it's a whole new world. You know, we've touched on some of these themes already today, and as I mentioned, you know, Nick is a very forward-thinking individual, and that market that Nick operates in is a little bit ahead of us. So Nick is our crystal ball for today. I'm really looking forward to learning what's going on over there in the UK, and therefore kind of what's coming to us in the next little while. So Nick, do I have you with me? Are you unmuted?
Yes. Hello, Ian. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thanks very much.
Take it away.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much for having me, and lovely to virtually meet you all. And thanks for staying with us. So my name is Nick King. I'm Insight Director at autoTRADER. I've been in marketing and research for over 30 years. I'm a consumer psychologist. I'm basically fascinated by people and technology. I've been at autoTRADER in the UK for nearly 14 years. And I'm just fascinated with data and insight. And I hope to try and bring some insights to you today, which will actually very much back up brilliantly what we've already heard earlier from our excellent speakers before. Now, I've always worked in marketing research. Apart from 30 years ago, I was in one of the first indie rock bands in the UK. I played guitar. As you can see, I still have a few. I had a wall of Marshall amps here, and I was in a professional band, and I blew my ears away. I'm now stone deaf. This ear doesn't work at all. This ear has tinnitus. And I only say that really because if we do get to Q&A at the end and there are questions, and Ian asks me a question via you and I can't hear, please shout. I have my laptop set up really loud. Anyway, right, so let's get on with the show. Right, clicks and mortar, I call it, bricks and digital, clicks and mortar working together. Now, you're all experts. Hopefully you'll just take some insights from here and think, actually, we could apply some of this to our market too. Because we have been through a lot. Most predictions are wrong. I was doing some work with Ipsos, who are a massive research company, and they said last year in 2019 they did some research and asked a statistically significant sample of people, what do you think is the biggest threat to health? And most people said, well, chronic disease or lifestyle or environment. No one predicted this, the COVID. that we've all been through. No one really saw this coming, but it has had a real impact on all of us. And this means it can affect how we feel and react. Because how we're feeling and how we react really will have an impact on how we make decisions. In a study from 2011, judges were seen to be influenced by social factors just as much as any of us. They are fallible and flawed. Prisoners are more likely to be granted parole early in the morning or just after a break, such as lunch. What? That's completely unfair, really. Surely judges of all people should be completely linear and infallible. But no, they are human beings. They gave lenient decisions when they were less tired. So when thinking about advertising and marketing today in this new world, what's going on around us, what time of day it is, how we're feeling, really will have an impact on how we react. And that's important because we have been through a massive forced experiment, all of us. You could call it a massive forced tech adoption because actually here we are now. I mean, I should be in Canada with Ian and the guys presenting to you live. We should all be in one big venue like it was a couple of years ago. We've all got used to this now. This mass forced experiment for all of us, much like the introduction of SMS texts or email, or even for previous generations, phone calls, it was forced on us. And it's dramatically changed the speed of adoption of new technology. Massively. It's let companies like Zoom carve out 200 million users in a space where the incumbent tech giants thought they had it all sewn up. But what about the prior barriers to tech adoption that we always had? Things like those multi-year sales cycles and big blue red tape and long-term contracts, and your IT department traditionally saying, oh, no, our firewalls won't let us do this. This isn't going to happen. Well, actually, what happens when you get the irresistible force of a lockdown, which every country has been through, and remote working, which we've also all done together, when those collide with each other, with those traditional barriers, what happens is they speed up. We see mass tech adoption in minutes, in days, as opposed to, oh, my browser thing has gone wrong, in days as opposed to months or years. None more so than in the UK, we have something called the National Health Service, which people pay into and it looks after us all. It's a wonderful institution. And I really am deaf. And so during one of our bank holidays, I had an ear infection in my good ear. And it was pretty painful, but I didn't want to make a fuss. I didn't want to be some git who phones up the NHS with an earache when there's loads of other awful things going on. So I lived with it. Then it got bad. And it got really bad. My face started to swell. And my wife said, no, you've got to phone. So anyway, I phoned the doctor, not thinking I'd get through, and they said, oh, actually, your doctor will call you back in half an hour, which was like amazing. Half an hour later, I had a video call on my phone with my doctor, and he's looking at me. It's like, wow. And he sees his face is swollen. He said, oh, well, you've got an ear infection. Here's some antibiotics. But what he also said was, if you want to see a consultant, I can arrange that for today as well. Today, it normally takes 3 or 4 months to see a consultant on the NHS in the UK, but because of the tech adoption, bang, it was instant. And that is completely different to what we used to go through. Next slide, please. Because what we're going through is different and odd and dangerous and weird for us. This fast adoption makes our brains react a bit differently. I want to introduce you to Daniel Kahneman, who's a Nobel Prize-winning behavioral economist, genius, written some fantastic books on psychology. One's called Thinking Fast and Slow. Thoroughly recommend it. But anyway, what he says is our brains are amazing things, but they are different they have changed. We have 95% of us use our brain is called primal brain, and it is system 1. He calls it system 1. It's on all the time. It's unconscious, it's fast, it's automatic, and it reacts to theatrical stimuli that's going on around us. And we live on it. And it's 500,000 years old. It's really old, and we've used it for years. But our newer brain, which we only use 5% of the time, is the rational brain. And he calls it system 2. And it is slow and it's logical. It's how we will work on a spreadsheet or do something complicated, and it's tiring to use it. We do use it, but we don't particularly like using it. In this frame, when there's so much going on and so much change, we tend to react and live with our primal brain. And this is how you stimulate the primal brain. And it's not rocket science. These are just the basic stimuli. Something personal to you. So if it's about you, great, it's about me, I'm really interested. Or something emotional will tug at the heartstrings and stimulate you. Imagine you've been driving for a while, for ages. You've been driving for a couple of hours and you pull into a rest stop and you're tired. You think to yourself, oh, I can't remember anything about the last 20 minutes of the journey. Oh, what? Wow. Was I daydreaming? Was I asleep? No, you weren't asleep. Hopefully, your primal brain was on and nothing contrastable to the norm happened. No one's contrastable to the norm driving will be someone swerves in front of you. Whoa. That's visually, you see the red lights come on and the brakes. You go, wow, and emotional, you think memorable. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Nothing happened. You were safe. But these are the things that are going to drive us today. If we make things that are primal brain friendly, we'll use less energy because they're instant and it'll allow for faster comprehension. So really what you want, your message needs to be simple enough for a 4-year-old to understand it. And I don't mean to be facetious because a 4-year-old only has a primal brain. In human beings, the rational brain develops from 5 onwards. If you go into any household that has children of up to 4, you will see paintings and pictures stuck on the kitchen, on the fridge. I did it, my grandkids did it, my children did it. But as we age and our rational brain develops, actually we decide, actually, no, I'm rubbish at drawing, I'll stop now. Picasso said, all children are great artists. But as we develop and rationalize, suddenly we go, actually, no, I don't do it anymore. So not being silly or facetious, your message needs to be simple and easy, echoing very much what we heard from Chris, Lillian earlier. So you need to appeal to a 4-year-old. So here is a typical 4-year-old. Well, this is a very old 4-year-old. This is me, aged 4. Yes, it's black and white. I am that old. And I was a petrol head even then. I still am. And I had hair. God, I miss my hair. So what would be the most effective way to make System 1 sit up and take notice? Well, you want to create theatre. This is as seen on screen, which is a site which sells clothes. This is a £25 or $30-odd shirt. And there was a video walk around of a model wearing a shirt. It makes you think, I look great in this shirt because it is personal, it's memorable, it's tangible, it's visual, it's all of those primal brain friendly things. So what should we be doing now in this new COVID enhanced world? Social distancing, creating digital sites that work. Just like you have done too, we have done lots of research too. Loads of statistically significant samples of car buyers taking part, and we asked, would you be open to completing the purchase online and then simply collecting the car at the dealership? And 82% of people said, well, actually, yes, we are ready. And this is, of course, different. What do you want to see? Well, I want appointment-only visits or solo test drives or contactless transactions. This is completely new. Go back to March earlier this year, pre-COVID. This didn't happen like this. You didn't have appointment-only visits. People just, like in Canada, just rocked up. Solo test drives? No, no one did that. So this is a whole new world to get our heads around. And if I can't turn up, because we've been through, like you, lockdown, and we're just coming in and out of lockdown, and we're in different tiers of what we can do and not, how do I see the car? Can I see the car outside? Could digital help me? Well, actually, yeah. This is a Volvo XC90, and it's on my drive. It's an augmented reality. I did it on my phone. You go to Volvo XC90, hit AR, hold your phone up, and you can actually see and visualize the car on your drive. Wow, that really is my drive, and it's a full life-size car. It looks quite. The question would be, does the car fit on my drive? Does it go between the gates? What does it look like? You can see it instantly. That is completely primal brain friendly. VW launched the ID3, their new electric range. And brilliantly, in the press release was this statement: it will only take 10 clicks to configure the entire vehicle. Brilliant, primal brain friendly, instant, simple, easy. There was a well-known bank in the UK. I won't name who it is because it's not fair on them, but it's very well known. It's online only, and it takes between 100 and 150 clicks to register yourself as an account. Who's going to do that now? So to echo what we heard from Chris and Ian and Lillian, actually we've done some mystery shopping too. We do something every year called the Retailer Awards, what's called the Click Awards, where we get people to rate and vote for websites and dealerships in the UK. And it's a really prestigious thing, and people really want to win these, and you get an award, and you get stickers and decals to put in your dealership when you win, and it's recognized in the industry. It's a big event. We've been doing it for 13 years. I've been at all of them and done all the research and presented at them, and we do mystery shopping. To draw one element, so just to explain, we use a well-known company called Performance in People. They work across industry, but we have around 13,000 retailers advertising with us in the UK. It's about 85% of all the retailers in the country, all the ones who actually matter, from great big large franchises and down to the small independent and small sole traders. And we take the top 1,000 performing of those, top 1,000. These are the ones who have best digital forecourts, they've got lots of images, they have videos, they price their cars to the market, they're selling lots of cars, they're responding well to requests, and they have great reviews too. So if you get in the top 1,000, you're doing very well. And we get Performance in People to send them a mystery shop request for one of the information about a car. The top 500 who respond get a phone call mystery shop. Then the top 150 get a physical visit with a pinhole camera, with professional mystery shoppers. You really can't tell you're being mystery shopped. They're really good. So if you get in the top 150, you are the creme de la creme. You are fantastic. You really are good. So what do we learn from these? What could we improve? Well, staggeringly, top 1,000 performers who are already brilliant, a quarter ignored the lead. Blimey. And I have presented what I'm going to take you through now to all of the winners. All of those 150 have heard this. The MD, the vice president, the senior VP, just, and not in a aggressive way at all, but just in a helpful way to say, really? You're not doing this? Only a quarter invited me in. Only a quarter said, come and see us. Really? Check your CRM system is the obvious takeaway here. And this is not having a go at anybody, but you're the best in the country. And only a quarter are actually inviting me in to see it. When I turned up, the top 150 in the country, only 28% of people had to wait for a sales exec. That's fine. We don't expect everyone to be standing outside the door and jump on you. Just like Ian has said, he goes around for 10 minutes and no one ignores him. But when I turned up, only 62% of people introduced themselves by name. That's like me turning up at your dealership and you saying, all right. No, you wouldn't say that. You say, hello, my name's Nick King. Welcome to Nick King Motors in Toronto, or whatever your dealership's called. Surely, wouldn't you? This isn't rocket science. This is basic stuff. These are the best retailers in the country, and less than 2/3 actually introduce themselves by name. You know, blimey. Are you sure your staff do this? Only just over half took an email address. How do we all communicate now? And 1 in 7, 15% took no details at all. That's like this existentialist crossword. No clues, no correct answers, no hope of ever solving the puzzle. You're shooting yourselves in the foot as an industry. So this isn't having a pick. Why is this important? This is important because for car buyers, buying a car isn't easy. They have a series of jobs they have to do, which they don't find easy. It's not a journey. It's not a linear process. They have a lot of unpredictable jobs to do, and they don't find it that easy. Did a massive survey, like you do too. Statistically significant sample, robust, over 1,400 people who are bought or buying soon took part. We did this last year. And the key outtake is more than 1 in 3 said, I would have bought a car sooner if I hadn't experienced any issues. Wow. So if it had been easier, I would have bought a car sooner. So for our industry, if we can make it easier, surely that would be quite a good thing. So this isn't a journey. This is just a map. You could go straight to the retailer you bought the car at before, or you could go on this route and end up at round turns and dead ends. You've got to work out what you need. Where do you start? How much I can afford? Is it right for me? Am I ready? All of these are jobs I have to do, and they are pain points I have to. People underestimate how hard it's going to be. When we said, how many jobs do you have to do before you buy the car? They said, well, I think it's about 4 or 5. I've got to find the car, visit the retailer, test drive, sort the finance and buy it. 4 or 5. Actually, no, it's not 4 or 5. There's more than 28. And they are these. I've got to work out what I need. And all of these are jobs I've got to do. Size, brand, spec, trim level. I've got to work out my budget, understand the jargon, servicing costs, tax, insurance. Then I've got to validate my choice. Oh, is the car going to fit? I don't know. Who do I seek advice from? And then I have to buy it and negotiate and haggle. We've already heard people don't like haggle. True, they don't. So these are jobs. And actually, as a successful retailer or manufacturer today, you can be answering these jobs before I turn up at the dealership, on your VDP, on your website. Preempt what I'm going to be thinking. Try and answer those questions before I turn up. If I haven't bought a car before, I might find it hard to get inspiration. High cognitive load is just a very posh phrase for it's going to do my head in. Difficult to compare, yeah, or lack of transparency. All of these things are going to influence me. Now, this is a horrible slide to present, but really you can just see on the bottom I listed are pain points. These are pain points. But the key of this is the scale. It goes up to 90% experiencing pain. The black line is 18 to 24-year-olds. The red line is 25 to 44-year-olds. So this is your future audience. So our younger audience experience a lot of pain. And you can see actually there's a big point at 90% on the black line, and that is unable to compare new and used cars in the same place. That is a 90% pain point for a younger audience. So make it obvious, make it easy for me if you can. Or halfway along, there's an 87% pain point on the black line. That is, I can't see the availability of the car I want. What do you mean the car's not available? Of course the car's available. You've got it advertised on your lot. Tell me it's available. Immediate availability in your strap line. It's here now. Pick up today. Sounds obvious, doesn't it? If you haven't done it, if you haven't bought a car before, that could freak you out. So just to agree again with Chris and Ian, actually, we reckon there's 4 key tenets to anything successful in marketing today, specifically digital marketing. Ease, speed, simplicity, transparency. If it's easy, great. Primal brain friendly. I can do it without thinking. Simplicity, I don't need to look for instructions. Speed, it's quick because we're all impatient now. We're all ridiculously impatient now. And transparency is, of course, trust. It's going to help me trust you. Get those right, you will win today. Now, when people are out looking, it's always an opportunity to influence. 2/3 of car buyers said, yeah, there's a few brands I'd select from, and 1/3 say I don't care as long as it fits my needs. But we ran this survey 2 years ago. And here we are 2 years later, and 52% of people said, I don't think car buying's changed. In fact, 14% said, I think it's got harder. Really? Because we live in a world of Amazon Prime, which is like that, Deliveroo, which is for food. I don't know if you have that in the States. We have Uber, of course, which is like that. They're instant. And what they've done is they have raised the baseline. They are so quick and simple and transparent and easy, they've raced ahead. Our industry may be slowly catching up, but actually we're playing catch up because they've made it so simple. So what are the triggers? What makes me want to buy a car? Now, we thought people would only change a car really because of change of lifestyle. That's why you change a car, surely. But actually, no. Only 14% said I'll change a car because I change a lifestyle. Nearly half said, I just felt like a change. What? The second most expensive thing you'll buy after your house or apartment. You just felt like a change. Now, the issue here is, as a retailer, as a marketer, I don't know when you're going to fancy change. I don't know when Ian's going to want to change his car, or Barish is going to want to change, or Linian's going to want to change their car. Only they know when they're going to want to change their car. So you cannot have a bad day. You can't say, well, this month, we're not really going to bother. You've got to be on all the time. Even in December, this could be because of COVID. We've seen the demand, just like you have in Canada. We have the same increase in demand. This could be the time for you to make it so your digital forecourt can't ever have a bad day. What if you haven't bought a car before? Don't know where to start. What you might need is a heuristic, or that's the posh word for a rule of thumb. Give me a guide. Help me make a decision. So I live in Southeast London. I really do. It's Southeast London, and I like curry. We order a lot of curry takeaways. And on the left, this genuinely is Shortlands Tandoori. That's where we get our curries from. And you can see we use a marker pen and a thing. We actually order the same things. I order a lot of curry. Now, I like a Danzak, a bit spicy, not a wimpy korma. You know, it's got a bit of gut. So and I know Shortlands makes a perfect Danzak. I'm okay if I order my Danzak from Shortlands Tandoori. What happens if I go to another curry house? How do I know I'll be okay? Well, here's the other curry house on the right-hand side, and you can see two little chili pepper signs next, or three little chilies. Now that is the heuristic. 2 chilies, I'll be okay. 4 chilies, oh blimey, I might have to put the loo roll in the fridge. Oh, sorry, I don't want to ruin your dinner. But that's the heuristic for me. For the car buyer, actually, the heuristic will be, An anchor position. This is the psychological premise. You base your decision making on something you already know. And it's for people who are buying new and used, a car you've seen, a car you've owned, a car you've had in the past. You make an anchor position. What could you do digitally to really nail this? Well, in the UK, this is a valuation API we have on autoTRADER. You simply put your reg, the registration of the car and the mileage in, and it will bring back what that car is and a guide valuation. But you don't have to tell me a guide price. If I haven't bought a car before, you just know what, or I've only had one, you now know what I drive. So you could inspire me and say, we see you have a Fiesta. In our VW range, you could have a smaller little Polo or a Rabbit, I think you call it, or Golf, or if you want to go across continents, you could buy a Touareg. You could use this to inspire me. No one's really doing this yet. That, of course, is primal brain friendly. So now we're going to go, how much I can afford. And of course, there's loads of jobs here, and actually it's scary. Yep, scary clown, because most people are worried about hidden costs and catches. Make it blindingly obvious. This is a big thing I'm about to buy. And in our mystery shop, top 150 retailers in the country, the best, only half had finance offered unprompted. Really? How do you all make money? With F&I, of course you do. 41% after being prompted. So only 2/3 had the different finance options explained. Most people are worried about working out running costs. So don't tell me this car does 47 miles to the gallon. What's the total cost of ownership? What's it going to cost me to run this car for a year, 10,000 miles? What do tyres cost? What does servicing cost? What's insurance going to cost? Roughly, what's it going to cost me? Is it going to cost me $3,000 a year to run this car, or $15,000, or $1,500, or $1,200, or $800? Primal brain friendly. So here's an example. This is a UK ad on autoTRADER, and this is a Polo GTI. It's a small hot hatch. And the ad has all the ingredients that was going to try and make me feel safe. They have building trust with reviews. There's lots of images. There's a video. There's a fair saving over the manufactured recommended retail prices of the new car. But you can't quite see it here. It's blurry. But the attention grabber says immediate delivery. What was that pain point that the 18 to 24-year-olds had? Is the car available? Yes, bang. So price transparency, understanding the full ownership costs, helps prepare me for the retailer conversation. What do I need? Size, brand, spec. Well, of course, there's lots of choice here, and that's the trouble. There's too much choice. In fact, 65% of people said, actually, I think there's too much choice. Slide, please. I think I've crashed. Too much choice. Oh, there we are. I think the choice is too complex. So imagine you're going to buy an SUV. Next slide, please. And your choice is, oh dear, this is England failing. Come on, next slide. You're looking at Toyota, Volvo, Audi, and BMW. You think, right, I'll look at a Toyota. So you go to Volvo, and you see they've got 12 versions. Oh, that's not bad. You go to Toyota, they've got 20 versions. You go to BMW, they've got 27 versions. Oh, blimey. Then you end up at, next slide, please, Audi, and the Q2 has 20 trim and combinations alone. You thought you were looking at 4, you're actually looking at, next slide, please, 100 choices. Now, next slide, please. You could be sat on your laptop and open 35 tabs along the top like this and spend hours researching, but actually that isn't how we look for our research. Next slide, please. We do it anytime, anywhere. Sorry, everybody, my phone has decided to die on me. We'll do it anytime, anywhere. So buyers want to compare new and used cars. Next slide, please. And comparisons aren't done in intense focus periods. They are done in, we snack anytime, anywhere, any place. You could be at a concert and just play it. So what should we do about it now? Well, next slide, please. We now to allow easy comparison between new and used different makes. We need to reduce that cognitive load, stop doing my head in, and clear signposting to help the user understand where they are. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So validating choice. Now I've got to work out, am I going to be okay? Next slide, please. 90% worry about making the wrong decision. I don't want to buy a Vindaloo. Oh, blimey, not with my stomach. No, I want to be careful. Next slide, please. So what I want is to see reviews. So it's obvious. Who buys anything without seeing what someone else has said about it? So your reviews will nail it for you. Next slide, please. And again, next slide. Now, the retailers actually play a key role in helping you do this. People who bought new and used all said the retailer plays well. If you can answer those questions, answer those jobs before I get to you, you really are going to help me. You're not the necessary evil, as some people call dealers in the UK. You really can help if you preempt and answer those jobs. Next slide, please. You can help me along that final furlong. Next slide. Because we know, and just a similar number to Canada, that most people just turn up, just rock in, just rock up. Prior to COVID, 64% of people said, no, I don't even make contact, I just appear. Now, of course, you have to make contact. What about those who did make contact? Well, of those top 150 retailers, amazingly, these are the best in the country. Only 44% of car buyers were given a full walk around static demo, walked around the car they'd come to look at. Really? Only 58% were invited to sit in the vehicle, and only 43% had the features and vehicle and benefits explained. And only 47%, less than half, had a clean or tidy car to test drive. Now, come on. You sell cars. I'm not having a pop at anybody. Keep them clean. Yeah, surely that's an issue. And sadly, 1 in 5 weren't offered a test drive at all. Now, why is the test drive important? I'm now going to read you a very odd statement. What do Netflix, mattresses, and sex toys have in common? Apart from the makings of a really good night in, depending on your preferences. No, what they all offer is a trial period. I bought Netflix. It comes with a 30-day trial period. And on day 29, we didn't give it back. No, we become used to it as part of the furniture. We're used to it now. I bought a mattress on Simba. It's a foam mattress. It comes with a 100-day trial period. And on day 99, we didn't give it back. No, we got used to it now. It's part of the family. It's part of the furniture. This company make, yeah, you guessed it, sex toys. And no, I didn't buy one. But if I did buy one, you can return it up to 365 days from the date of purchase, even if it's been used. Ugh, imagine working in their returns department. Sorry, I'll probably put you off your dinner. But what that plays with is, I feel safe. I feel okay. It's fear factor. Actually, what it plays with is another psychological effect, which is the endowment effect. Endowment effect means you take ownership of something. You've had it in the family, it's part of the furniture, which is why a test drive matters. 12-hour, 2-hour, 48-hour, 24-hour. You take the car home, put it on your drive, the neighbors see it, you drive it to the station. You take ownership. And 1 in 5 don't even offer a test drive. Now, test things are nothing new. Even back in the 70s and 60s, big catalogues with clothing in that your mother or your grandmother used to buy, with people with chunky jumpers or nice crimpling casual suits like my mum used to buy. You could send them back, but no one did because of the endowment effect and not being scared about being ripped off. Now, the retail revolution took 100 years to go from this, which was the first supermarket, superstore, where people were served by people in brown coats behind counters, to actually this, which was the first supermarket. It's a Carrefour. It's in France. It was 1963, 20 kilometers outside Paris. Carrefour as a brand still exists. And what was unique about Carrefour was it had loads of things to buy, 12 cashiers, room for 400 cars, and crucially, a petrol pump, a gas station. So it was simple, easy, quick, and transparent. The next retail revolution took just 10 years to go from the launch of this, the mobile phone, which we're all now addicted to, so much so it sucks our face off. We can't even put it down, and it has ruined our attention span. We now have less attention span than a goldfish. That is mental. And we will spend 1.7 seconds looking on Facebook, which is one and, looking at cars, looking at houses, looking at real estate, looking at holidays. We do everything instantly. Our patience levels have shrunk. We want things now. There's a really lovely restaurant in London. It's the sort of place you go for an anniversary. It's called Bob Ricard. It's in Golden Square in Soho. Really nice. A-listers go there, B-list celebrities go there, and you can't get in. You have to book ages in advance, and if you're lucky, you get in. My wife wanted to go for an anniversary. And I eventually got a table, and here she is. Here is Lynn. This is my wife. And you get a booth in there, and inside the booth is a little button. And the button says, if you can read it, press for champagne. Now, Lynn, my wife, likes a bit of bubbly. And they know that. They know that you might be embarrassed to put your hand up because you're not famous and you won't get served. They know this. So they provide the button. So you press the button. Lynn pressed the button. 45 seconds later, a tray appeared with a glass of bubbly on, champagne. Lynn said, this is brilliant. She kept pressing the button. Oh, I spent about 400 quid on a meal. Ah, ridiculous, but it was a fantastic experience. It had sort of got through that impatience aura. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because for our future car buyers, they aren't having a great experience. They really aren't. It is tough for them. They say car buying needs to improve. They get bored. They don't like to finish. They want to see availability. You can help by getting these jobs done. We can help by getting these jobs done. Jobs to be done is really about making me showroom ready. This is Rocky running through Philadelphia. It's not match fit ready, it's showroom ready. It's about making the right person fit the right car from the right retailer at the right time. I'm going to show you one final mystery shop stat, and it is a picture of half a car. But before I show you the slide, what's the question that everyone should ask in the sales process? What question would you expect your sales team to ask the customer during the sales process? And that question is, it's a rhetorical question. That question is, do you want to buy the car? The ultimate open question. Yes, do you want to buy the car? And staggeringly, only half of the top retailers in the country actually ask that question. Wow. Surely, if 100% of them had asked the question, you'd be flying. A good friend of mine who runs a really big dealership group in the northeast of England, his parents started the business, and it's a really big Nissan dealership now. He's the MD now. When he was 12, his mum got him on the forecourt and said, go out into the customers, and if you see someone who's looking at cars, go up to them and say, hello, are you here to buy 2 cars today or only 1? Oh, I'm only here to buy 1 car. You've already semi-closed them. Genius. Don't be scared to ask that question. So, in summary, we have been through a mass force tech adoption, not an experiment, a tech adoption. We're all used to this now. So we need to appeal to our primal brain. We need to make it easy and simple. Our primal brain wants theatre, multiple images, good videos, just as Lillian was saying earlier. Car buyers are keen and ready to interact. You really can nail this. As one of your folk heroes, Wayne Gretzky, puts it, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take those shots, make a big go for it. Nail digital, because you are brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.
Nick, thank you so much. Great presentation. And I love the way that Nick kind of zooms out from, we spent a lot of today and we spend a lot of our working lives really tight in the automotive vertical and thinking about the details. And Nick has a fantastic way of, sorry, I'm flattering you, Nick, and you're right there. So not to embarrass you, but Nick has a great way of zooming out and thinking about not just cars, but just the way that we live our lives, consumer psychology, the things we've got used to, and then bring it back to what's the implication for us in our business. And I think so much for our dealer audience, for us at autoTRADER, I think for everybody in this game we call automotive to reflect on and think about there, because you're right. I mean, even hopefully one day COVID is kind of gone and it's a memory, but a lot of the processes, expectations, psychology that's being adopted right now is going to last. So a lot for us to think about. Thank you so much, Nick. And thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our speakers. So right now we are bang on time. That's incredible. Right to the minute on time. So very professional job with timing, all of you. And so we're moving into the Q&A section of the afternoon. So let's get into that. I've got a few questions here. First up, I've got a question for Chris. So Chris, you spoke about, well, the question is, why do you suggest before the test drive that we go through the Carfax mechanical inspection and repairs? Why are you saying that should come before the test drive?
Simply because it's the confidence that's built, the trust that's built. People obviously have trust issues or concerns about a pre-owned vehicle, so alleviate them all right up front. Now, it could be argued, well, maybe the car has $4,000 worth of damage and it was fixed professionally.
most top sales consultants will share with you that when they deal with this upfront and say, hey, and this vehicle did have a small accident, let me show you what was done at a local professional collision center and allow you to inspect the vehicle, as opposed to a customer feeling that, you know, it was a big surprise at the end of the demonstration drive. So the question could go both ways. I understand that whoever asked the question, they could be thinking, well, let's just get the customer excited about the vehicle, and then we'll talk about the problem with the vehicle. And there's a certain amount of reality to that also. But what we generally find is when you expose everything about the vehicle before the drive, the vehicle stays on the list or it comes off the list, but we have a better chance of turning that person into a customer.
It's interesting. I mean, just thinking about, I suppose, a bit amateur psychology from me, but I mean, Nick, I'd love your take on this. Is it something to do with, I mean, nobody likes a nasty surprise, but, you know, when you're test driving a car, I guess, especially if it's a used car, that there's things on your mind that you're thinking about some of those things you just mentioned. And as you're test driving it, you're not really focusing on the test drive. You don't allow yourself to kind of fall in love with the experience in the car and have an emotional experience because you're thinking in your mind, has this thing had an accident, and what's the inspection situation? So I guess there's an element of that to it, Chris, where you're sort of saying, get that stuff out the way, and then there's no nasty surprise, and the user can enjoy the test drive and maybe fall in love with the car. I mean, Nick, I'd be interested in your thoughts.
I definitely agree. I mean, it's in a world, so on autoTRADER in UK, we have over 500,000 cars for sale, and no one likes to trust a car dealer. There's still an opinion that I'm going to get ripped off. It's going to be awful. I'm going to have a bad experience. So anything you can do to alleviate that worry at the first instance is really, really important. Tell me the bad news. Don't try and hide. Don't try and nick my party data. Everyone expects that now. The dealers who really nail this are the ones who are completely open and honest and trustworthy. And it is really basic psychology. It's like you're going to trust people you like. When you're doing your test drive, actually you're trying to run a reason. Why shouldn't I buy this car? Yeah. I really want to buy this car. I'm excited to read it, but what don't I know? So please be open and honest, and you really will succeed.
So that's great advice. Thank you both. Next question, again for you, Chris. So we were talking about those digital leads and the touch points, and I was really interested in our conversation about how you validate them and follow up with them and this kind of thing. I guess there's a point at which, you know, you've got to say, you've got to kind of give up the ghost a little bit on a digital lead. So, I mean, the question is, how many follow-up touch points are optimal for an e-lead? I sort of take that to mean, when do you give up on an e-lead?
Dealer groups, dealerships with highly defined digital sales processes will typically touch the customer every other day over a 30-day period. Wow. Now, bear in mind, during that time, they'll politely ask the customer, you know, please, if you already have purchased a car, that's not a problem. You know, just let me know and I'll stop contact unless you'd like me to continue for some reason, to give the customer the opportunity, because a lot of them are embarrassed to say, hey, I already bought a car. Canadians are nice people.
Yeah.
And that's often, Canadians are too nice. They don't tell the dealership that they've already made a purchase decision. But again, these are soft touches. It's not, do you want to buy the car? Do you want to buy the car? It's, hey, I thought you might like to see a JD Power report that ranks this vehicle second overall in terms of overall quality after 1 year. Hey, I saw this video online that really expertly describes Bluetooth. I thought you might like this. These are just soft touches to let the customer know I'm here when you're ready to engage. And at the same time, let me know if you're not ready to engage. Please bear in mind, a lot of customers are what we call gophers. And that's not a nasty term. It simply means I'm one of them. I'll be in the process of buying a car, but then be on the road for a week or even two. And I sort of forget my life at home and get so caught up in business that I also forget to look after personal things like buying a car, and I go a little quiet, I go ghost. But then once back a week later, it's okay, I'm back, I'm ready to buy a car. Simply put, the average sales consultant gives up far too early.
Gotcha.
And we find similar in the UK. It can take 3 months to buy a car. It can take a year to buy a car for exactly those reasons, because you don't do it in one, like I tried to say, with, you don't sit there and open 35 tabs and sit there and spend 5 hours. I'm going to buy a car today. You do it in piecemeal, on the train, on the bus. When you've got 5 minutes, you quick look, which is why your digital forecourt has to be amazing. You can't have that bad day. You can't just say, oh, we won't bother putting multiple images on today because no one looks on a Sunday. Well, yeah, this could be it when you grab me. And it's a very, very difficult sale because this is something expensive. You're going to be paying monthly. You might be paying a big lump sum. And it's tough. As Chris says, it's really tough for the salesman. You've got to be gentle and say, I'm here for you. I'm here for you when you need me. I'm here for you when you need me. I'm not hassling you. I'm here when you need me. And gently remind her with exactly those JD Power or latest stats or a survey or review. Be gentle, but be persistent, because people will forget. We're all busy. We've got a million things to do. Like everyone here, I get 100 emails a day, at least. I don't read them all, do I? Do you really? They're going to spam, clutter, junk. Can't even find your bloody emails. So if you've been sending it and no one's calling you, actually don't worry. Be gentle, or text. Don't just send emails. Text something if you got the number. Alternate. Use WhatsApp. Send a picture. Hello, still here.
But just stay in touch. Stay on the radar.
Stay in touch. Just stay on the radar. That's exactly it.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. It's interesting, actually. I was just thinking about my own, kind of survey of one. But the last time I bought a car, I suppose I was in that, because like you were mentioning, a lot of people are changing car not because there's a trigger or a need. I just kind of fancy it, but I want to change car, whatever. And I think perhaps one of the most sort of misleading stats and things like that I've seen in the last few years, and I've seen it at Think Auto that Google put on and things like that, and even in our own research, is that the time to purchase is getting shorter and shorter. And it's like, it is, but only it depends how you define the time to purchase. So when we ask the question in a different way, it's like, yeah, sure, it's like 29 days, now, but that's from I'm really serious now because of the internet. But actually that period, like you were saying, the consideration type period, yeah, it's as long as 5-6 months in some cases, where people are dipping in and out. I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm researching. And just as you were saying, you got to be always on. You got to be there. Where are they going? They're going to autoTRADER. They're doing some searches, places like that. You need to be there early on. And then if they do make contact, stay on the radar, be a bit more persistent. But you're absolutely right, Chris. That is one thing that Canadians, very polite people. Well, Brits are very polite people too.
We're worse. Oh no, I'm sorry. We apologise all the time. Yeah.
Well, I've been away for so long.
Oh no, we're still pathetic. It's still rubbish. But actually, just to add to this, we have a whole new demographic too, and I'm sure you have it too as well, which is COVID has brought out 18 to 24-year-olds who actually in the UK used to tell us, I have a driving license, but I'll never own a car. Oh no, I'll share one. I'll use a Zip car, or if I need to use a cab, I'll use an Uber. And now, who wants to share a car? Has it been sanitized? Is it fair? And actually, and we saw whole new demographic coming on, a new audience. This is a silver lining in this terrible pandemic we're going through. And we all thought, oh, great, they're just going to buy a banger. They'll buy a cheap car. They'll buy a real cheap. But actually, we've been tracking, as I'm sure you do too, the price ranges that people search for. And prior to COVID, there was there were gaps from 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, etc., all the way up to £100,000. And it's the same. People are still looking at expensive cars. We thought we'd see a massive growth in cheap cars, and actually we haven't. Wow. But how do you approach a 20-year-old today? How do they all communicate? They're all on this, and it's Snapchat, it's all those social channels. In fact, if someone's looking for you, you can use all those social channels to capture me now too. I've got teenage grandchildren. Yeah, I really am old. But the way I communicate with him is Snapchat, bizarrely, and WhatsApp, and never speak to him on the phone. So that's how they will buy. So you have a whole new marketing challenge. What's your social challenge? What's your social comms plan like? And are you using it to its best ability?
Yeah, and it's back to that lead follow-up thing, isn't it? You know, I know young people don't talk to each other on the phone anymore. It is just text. Why are you calling me? So if you have their phone number through the lead, like, yeah, send them a WhatsApp or something. Don't think, well, maybe try calling them, but you might not get an answer. That's actually a good segue, Nick, into our next question, which is for Lillian. Lillian, what kinds of marketing tactics would you recommend to get the attention of these first-time car buyers? So, you know, they were sort of talking about how you stay in touch with them and whatnot, but grabbing their attention. I guess there's a few of our speakers who could speak to this around, you know, what's your message and how do you get their attention? You know, it's back to the value prop thing that you talked about, Chris, being concise. Like, what is it about your dealership that's different? But I mean, Lillian, from the research and your experience, and any insights into what's really important to nail in terms of the marketing tactics, specifically for first-time buyers?
Yeah, I think based on what we've seen and how important it was, you know, from attracting a buyer even to the dealership and then converting a first-time car buyer, I would really focus my effort on reviews. I know it sounds a bit bizarre because to some degree, Nick was just saying, oh, you know, social media, what's your challenge there? But if these people are looking for dealerships, what they're going to want to understand first is how your dealership will interact with them. And they'll only know that by understanding how they interact with others. So in terms of, you know, the positive reviews and the negative reviews and how you handle and manage those reviews. So, you know, some people I know are afraid to enable reviews. So make sure that you're letting people review you, good or bad, and be ready to respond to those quickly in a timely manner, and be very transparent in your conversation with people. So I would focus, if anything, on really leaning into reviews, because I think that is important to really attract those first-time car buyers to your dealership.
Another big theme about the trust and transparency piece, right? It's just like table stakes these days. So yeah, I agree.
Completely agree with that.
Okay, a couple more questions before we wrap. Sort of a couple minutes here. So, this is an easy one. Will there be a shareable link of the presentation? Someone would like to share it with their team. Yeah, absolutely. So, as a follow-up to the event, there will be an email which will contain a link to the video. So anyone who's watching right now, you can download it and share it with the rest of your team. I'm glad that you found value enough that you'd like to share it. That's very good to hear. And also, I wanted to mention within that email, there'll be a link to a attendee survey. We'd love to do more of these kind of events and bring you more added value and insights and all this kind of good stuff and hear from excellent external speakers and internal speakers. So if you enjoyed today, do let us know. It's only by letting us know that we will continue to invest in putting these kind of events on, because I think it's good for everybody when we get together and share these insights. So please do complete the post-event survey. Or if you didn't enjoy it, let us know too. I'm sure we have room for improvement. So last question, and it is for Nick. What are the main triggers that will convince car shoppers to buy online? So I guess we've been hearing that there's more and more people who are up for it, and we're seeing that from our integration with the marketplace. What do you think are the triggers that will convince them to buy online if they're not considering it already?
Good, very good question. We've actually just finished a huge market report on this very subject, which I would have presented today to you, but it's only literally finished it last week. So it was too hot to handle. It's nothing earth-shatteringly new, but the main triggers are, you have a bell curve which describes the population, and it's how people are split in that population. Dr. Robert Cialdini is a well-known psychologist, and he calls it, he's written a book called Persuasion Theory. And if you split the population, diffuse the population, the first 2.5% of the population are innovators, people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, geniuses who come up with their ideas. Then you have early adopters. They make up about 13.5% of the population. They're the ones who will queue outside the Apple store for the latest phone. Then you have the early and late majority, who make up about 65, 68% of the population. That's everybody. And then you have laggards right at the end, who are probably still using a word processor or typewriter in technology terms. Now, to get mass adoption, you need to get to a tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell, who's another well-known psychologist, written a brilliant book called Tipping Point. He says, if you get about 16, 18% of the population doing something, something will tip and spread like wildfire. So if we just get the innovators and early adopters to do it, that's about 16%. Everyone will buy into it. Trouble is, early doctors like scarcity. They like to be the first to do something. They like to be original. I want to do what no one else has done. So the messaging for them is about be one of the first. And be one of the first to do this. But early majority, which is the rest of the population, like social proof. They're scared. They don't like scarcity. They want to know that everyone else is okay. They want to say, oh, I'll be okay if I do this.
Yeah.
So the messaging for the majority is join the 100,000 other people who've already done this. Join the 300,000 people who've had a safe experience. If you want to get me into digital retailing, which at the moment has only really been brought by those early adopters, it's your messaging. Your messaging is, you'll be okay. What if something goes wrong is a big fear point for a car buyer who hasn't done it. How do I know I'll be okay? What if I have an issue? Who do I talk to? You have to bring this to the fore, make me think, actually, if anything goes wrong, you will be fine. We posited an idea that imagine you could buy a car online, you fill in a simple form, you take 10 minutes filling in your details. The car says, yes, you're accepted for finance. The car will be delivered in 3 days. It arrives. There's a person who delivers the car to you, and they will answer any question you have. They're not incentivized to sell any add-ons. They're just a nice, helpful genius. You can then keep the car for 7 days. If you don't like it, you can return it. No questions asked. The ultimate online purchase. When we presented that to 1,000 car buyers, only 61% said, yeah, I'd do it. 30% said, actually, I'm still not sure.
Really?
What, the ultimate, it couldn't be more safe. And still, a third of people said, oh, no, I don't like that. Blimey. So that's the classic example of social proof. They need to say, no, you really are fine. Oh, when I know that 800,000 people have already bought a car like that, I'm safe, I'll be okay. So there's your challenge. To get into online retailing, you really need to message it. Very much like how we're going to get people to buy electric vehicles. Same challenge we have here in many countries. Because we, as of 2009, in the UK, you won't be able to sell an internal combustion engine car. So everyone's got to buy an EV. So we've got to get early adopters into early majority for that as well.
It's a journey. Yeah, you need those trailblazers. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, interesting again, all comes back to that trust point, right? It all comes back to the trust and transparency. And can I trust this process?
Yeah.
So key. And that's where the reviews come in and all that kind of other stuff. But that's interesting. Yeah. So the messaging will evolve as the market evolves with it. Very early doors, it's going to be a certain type of messaging. And then when we want to start getting it to scale, it's about the trust factor and social proof and, this many cars sold and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, well, I guess we're a little bit over time, but so fascinating hearing from you all in response to those questions. I think in closing, I mentioned about the follow-up survey. Please do take the time. I think as well, just a couple of things that I mentioned. So if you are interested in digital retail, either on your own dealer website or integrating with our marketplace, go.trader.ca/digital retail. If you're not quite ready for digital retail, but you're interested in some of the other things we spoke about, I'm sure you'll know that we have the remote selling suite available as well, completely free to add to all your listings on the marketplace, which will let consumers know that you offer a home test drive and all this kind of thing. That can be found at go.trader.ca/RSS. Does you absolutely no harm to sign up for that because it's totally free. And if you do offer those services, like we heard, consumers are looking for them. So I think in closing, I just want to say a massive thank you again to our speakers. It's been so good. I've learned a lot. So I'm sure that our audience have as well. And hopefully, next year when we're getting together for Carology, COVID will be a memory and we'll be doing this in person. But as I said, let us know if you found value in the event and we'll try to do more of these. Want to appreciate you being our dealer partners all through this crazy year that we've had. And as I said right at the start, and like we've said for many years, I think that our success is completely linked together. We want to both be successful together because it is linked. So thank you very much for joining us. I'll see you next time. And thanks once again to our speakers for taking the time out. Really good.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll have a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
Stay
Thank you
safe.
very much. Yes.